Let's get things started. Ready? Go!
Hello and welcome to Bounding Into Comics. My name is John Trent. I'm the founder and editor-in-chief at Bounding Into Comics. Today I got a story about Spider-Man No Way Home earning more at the box office than Shang-Chi, Black Widow, and Eternals combined. And that's with the film being out in theaters less than a month. Spider-Man No Way Home continued to dominate at the box office as it brought in another $52.7 million at the domestic box office in the last weekend of 2021, bringing its domestic gross to $609.8 million and its worldwide gross to $1.3 billion, according to the numbers. Both Spider-Man No Way Home's domestic and worldwide grosses top all three of the other Marvel Cinematic Universe entries in 2021, which includes Black Widow, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and Eternals. Black Widow earned only $183.6 million domestically and $375.4 million worldwide, albeit the film was released on Disney Plus the same day it was released in theaters. Disney claimed the film earned $60 million from premiere access purchases on Disney Plus when it initially debuted. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings domestic gross sits at $224.5 million with a worldwide gross of $417.9 million. The film hit these marks without any competition for over a month at the box office. The first time it hit competition was with Venom. Eternals, the worst performing MCU film of 2021, only grossed $164.7 million at the domestic box office. However, it did have a worldwide gross of $399.6 million. Now, it's also interesting about Black Widow and Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. In Disney's latest Q4 quarterly report for 2021, they do put the blame on Shang-Chi and Legend of the Ten Rings and Black Widow for underperforming compared to the previous quarter last year. This is what they wrote. The decrease in theatrical distribution results was due to a higher operating loss from titles in release and increased marketing expense for future releases. Jungle Cruise, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Free Guy, and Black Widow were released in the current quarter, whereas the prior year quarter included The New Mutants. The company incurs significant marketing costs before and throughout the theatrical release, which may result in a loss during theatrical distribution. So it definitely seems to be implying that all four of those films that they mentioned, Jungle Cruise, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Free Guy, and Black Widow, all lost money. But if we get back to those domestic grosses for Black Widow, Eternals, and Shang-Chi, that all adds up to $572.9 million, well below Spider-Man No Way Home's $609.8 million domestic gross. Looking at the worldwide box office, Spider-Man No Way Home crushes the three films. Their combined total is only $1.193 billion. Even if you add the $60 million from the Disney Plus premiere access of Black Widow, that brings the combined global gross of all three films to $1.253 billion. That's still over $100 million below Spider-Man No Way Home's $1.368 billion. And again, remember, Spider-Man No Way Home hasn't even been out in theaters for an entire month. The Spider-Man No Way Home grosses also annihilate the entire narrative surrounding the poor box office grosses of Black Widow, Eternals, and Shang-Chi. Mainly that narrative being that people aren't going to the movie theaters because of the pandemic and they're afraid, and that's why people are staying home. Well, that doesn't seem to be the case, as people are going to see No Way Home, and it looks like, based on what we're seeing now, people are going to see it multiple times. So it doesn't seem like people are really that afraid of the pandemic anymore, or of getting the virus. Let's say people aren't, but it does appear that people are willing to go to the movie theaters and risk the pandemic in order to see the film. In fact, Spider-Man No Way Home is now the 10th grossing film of all time at the domestic box office. It sits behind just Star Wars The Force Awakens, Avengers Endgame, Avatar, Black Panther, Avengers Infinity War, Titanic, Jurassic World, The Avengers, and Star Wars The Last Jedi. It has moved past Incredibles 2, The Lion King, The Dark Knight, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, and Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. The film also holds the record for the highest grossing weekend of December, with its opening weekend bringing in a whopping $260.1 million. That beat out Star Wars The Force Awakens, Star Wars The Last Jedi, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, and the second weekend of Star Wars The Force Awakens. Spider-Man No Way Home doesn't just have the highest grossing weekend in December, it also holds the 8th spot with the weekend of December 24th, its second weekend grossing $84.5 million. The film is also on pace to beat Avengers Infinity War at the domestic box office. As you can see in this chart, Spider-Man No Way Home's domestic gross in its 7th 15th day at the box office sits at $609.8 million. In comparison, Avengers Infinity War had only grossed $548 million. It didn't hit $609.4 million until its 29th day in theaters. To put that into perspective, Avengers Infinity War earned $678.8 million at the domestic box office and went on to earn $2 billion total worldwide. It currently sits as the 5th highest grossing film of all time at the domestic box office, behind The Force Awakens, Avengers Endgame, Avatar, and Black Panther. Spider-Man No Way Home has indeed broken the pandemic narrative surrounding the low box office numbers for Black Widow, Shang-Chi and Legend of the Ten Rings, and Eternals. That excuse that those box office numbers were so low because of the pandemic just is out the window. You just cannot use that as an excuse anymore. Disney's going to have to find another excuse to justify that extremely poor performance at the box office for those films, given the massive success of Spider-Man No Way Home. My name is John Trent, and you've been watching Bounding into Comics.